Hey guys, in this video we're going to look at how color applies to the guitar fretboard so you can visualize musical patterns to play the instrument. Now, if you haven't seen my video, 5 Steps to Seeing Sound, definitely check that out. The link is in the video notes below, because there I explain how color and music can be merged in a logical, though unexpected way to actually see musical patterns that are otherwise invisible. In a nutshell, you ultimately get there by blending the color wheel with a special pattern in music called the circle of fifths, and then twisting that pattern into the chromatic scale, which is the fundamental sequence of notes used to play songs on an instrument. But if the resulting pattern of colored notes is cyclical like this, then how do we apply it to the guitar fretboard, which isn't circular but linear instead? Well, the answer is simple. To do this, all we have to do is unwind our circular scale and apply it to the fretboard like this, since every string on the guitar follows a chromatic scale pattern, with the notes rising in half-step intervals through each fret. This circular pattern of notes is the same as this linear sequence. They're just laid out in different formats. And then once we've done this for one string, we can do the same for all the others to fill in the fretboard with notes that follow the guitar's tuning, so that together the strings look like this, where each string is a separate chromatic scale with the colored notes rising up the frets in half-step intervals. Though once we've plotted all the notes, this matrix of color might look sort of odd at first, or even totally random, like some bad color scheme from the 1970s. All tripped out and groovy, man, if you know what I'm saying. But actually this pattern is not random at all and anything but that, because when you look closely, you'll see that there's a definite logic and order to this arrangement. And that's because the guitar fretboard sits at the intersection of two patterns, the chromatic scale and the circle of fifths, which merge together into one array. You see, while each string is an individual chromatic scale, where again the notes rise up the frets of each string in half-step intervals, like this, all of these scales are stacked in such a way that every fret forms a circle of fifths sequence like this. And this alignment of strings is based on the guitar's standard tuning, which we'll explore in more detail in another video. So there's a slight shift in this pattern at the top 2 strings because of the instrument's tuning. But otherwise, all of the notes form a consistent pattern that's orderly and elegant, as a blend between the chromatic scale laid out in one direction and the circle of fifths laid out in another direction to form a perfectly organized tapestry of visible sound. So while the fretboard might look a little chaotic at first glance, it's a super elegant and powerful matrix in reality. Now, I don't want to just skip over that last point and miss the power of what it means, because I know for me personally, when I was new to the guitar, and for a long time actually, it was hard for me to wrap my head around how it all works. When I was looking at just a plain fretboard with all the notes invisible to the eye, it was really confusing, because sometimes I might play a certain note and it sounded good in a song, and then other times in another song, that same note, that same finger position at a given fret on a string would sound bad, and it seemed like the strangest thing. Back then, when I had just started learning about music, I didn't know anything about playing in different keys. And as someone who's visual, I couldn't picture how all of these finger positions related to each other. So the guitar fretboard was a giant mystery. Clearly there was a logic to it, but it felt like I was trying to play chess blindfolded, just sort of groping in the dark in a game of hit and miss. I'd move my fingers here and it might sound good, then I'd try to remember what I had just played, counting frets to keep my bearings and just feeling my way through trial and error. So when I say that with color, you can actually see the underlying patterns of music and that there's a visible logic and structure that mirrors the audible sounds that you hear, it's a game changer really. Because the blindfold finally comes off and you can advance with true vision. Anyway, so now that we can actually see sound and we know how the notes are arranged on the guitar, we can pick this pattern apart to play all sorts of music on the instrument. Because really all patterns in music, like scales, melodies, chords, and progressions, are made from the 12 notes of the chromatic scale and are informed by the circle of fifths. So the fact that the guitar is specifically designed as a perfect hybrid of both is why it's so fun to play and why it's ideal for writing songs, since it combines these two fundamental patterns into one streamlined interface. And with color music, it's an interface that you can now see and quickly understand. But there's still a lot more to see, and in the next videos we'll look even more closely at this matrix to see what kinds of patterns emerge, to gain even greater insight into how music works so you can write your own songs. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.